Captain Lee Juno stood at the window of Kepler Station, watching ships come and go in the busy space lanes. The station was huge, home to 40,000 people from dozens of different planets. He had been here for 3 months now, working as Earth's military representative to the Galactic Coalition. It was supposed to be a peaceful job. The galaxy had been at peace for over 3,000 years. That morning changed everything. The first alarm came at 800 hours. Dr. Park Hana rushed into the command center, her face pale with worry. She was a scientist who studied alien life forms, and Juno had never seen her look so scared. "Captain, we're getting reports from the Outer Rim," she said, her hands shaking as she held a data tablet. 3 colonies have gone silent in the past 6 hours. No distress calls, no emergency signals. They just stopped talking. Admiral Kim Taeho, the senior human officer at the station, frowned at the news. He was a calm man who rarely showed emotion, but Juno could see concern in his eyes. "Equipment failure?" he asked. "All 3 at the same time?" Dr. Park shook her head. "That's impossible. And now we're losing contact with shipping lanes near those systems." The main screen flickered to life, showing the face of Yul Tem, the Coalition's Supreme Commander. The tall, blue-skinned Alteran looked worried. His people were known for being peaceful and wise, but today his usual calm was gone. "All Coalition forces, we have a situation," Yul Tem announced. "An unknown hostile force has attacked our outer colonies. We are implementing emergency protocols immediately." Juno felt his stomach drop. In 3,000 years of peace, the Coalition had never faced a real enemy. Their defense forces were more like police than soldiers. Most Coalition species had evolved from plant eaters or peaceful animals. They knew how to keep order, not how to fight wars. The next few hours brought terrible news. Colony after colony went dark. When Coalition scouts finally reached one of the attacked systems, they found something that made hardened space veterans sick. The planets were empty. Not destroyed, emptied. Every living thing was gone, as if something had eaten everything alive. Dr. Park worked without sleep, trying to understand what they were facing. Late that night, she called Juno to her lab. Her research station was covered with pictures and data from the attacked colonies. "I think I know what we're dealing with," she said quietly. "Look at these bite marks on the metal structures. Look at the hunting patterns. These aren't raiders or pirates. They're predators. Pure predators." She showed him video footage from a security camera that had somehow survived. Juno watched in horror as creatures moved through empty streets. They were tall, maybe 7 feet, with hard shells like insects but moving like hunters. They worked together like wolves, checking every building, every hiding place. They moved with purpose like they had done this many times before. "The survivors' reports all say the same thing," Dr. Park continued. "They hunt in groups. They're smart, and they don't just kill, they consume everything. Plants, animals, even some metals. It's like they see the entire galaxy as food." Before Juno could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the station. The main screen showed ships dropping out of hyperspace near Kepler Station. They were unlike anything in Coalition records. Organic-looking vessels that seemed more grown than built. Battle stations. Admiral Kim ordered, but his voice carried doubt. Kepler Station had defensive weapons, but they were designed to stop pirates, not handle a real military threat. The attack began without warning. The alien ships moved like living things, flowing around the station's defenses. Juno watched in amazement as they coordinated their assault with perfect timing. No communication signals passed between them, yet they moved as one. Coalition defense ships tried to respond, but they were outmatched. The aliens, Dr. Park called them the Vexhi based on their hunting behavior, fought like nothing the Coalition had ever seen. They used their ships like weapons, ramming and tearing at Coalition vessels with claws and teeth built into their hulls. Juno found himself thinking of Earth's history, of wolves hunting deer. The Coalition ships tried to run, tried to hide, tried to group together for protection. All prey responses. The Vexhi anticipated every move because they were natural hunters facing natural prey. Admiral Kim made the hardest decision of his career. "All civilian ships evacuate immediately." Military vessels buy them time. The evacuation was chaos. Families ran through corridors, carrying children and precious belongings. The Vexhi had landed boarding parties on the station's outer sections. Juno could hear weapons fire getting closer. Dr. Park grabbed his arm as they ran toward the escape pods. "Captain, I need you to understand something. This isn't just an attack. It's the beginning of a feeding frenzy. If they take the outer colonies, they'll move deeper into coalition space. They'll consume everything. As their escape pod launched from the dying station, Juno looked back to see Kepler Station being torn apart by the Vexhai ships. 40,000 people had lived there that morning. Now it was becoming food for creatures that saw the galaxy as their hunting ground. Admiral Kim's voice came through the emergency communication system. All coalition forces, this is Admiral Kim. Earth's fleet is being recalled for emergency consultation. We face an enemy unlike any the galaxy has known. Prepare for war. But as Juno watched more coalition ships fall to the Vexhai hunters, he realized something the other species might not understand. The coalition had spent 3,000 years avoiding conflict, breeding away their aggressive instincts, becoming civilized and peaceful. They had forgotten how to think like predators. Humanity had not. Earth was about to enter its first galactic war, and Juno suspected that humans might be the only species in the coalition that could understand what they were really fighting. The Vexhai were apex predators, evolved to hunt and consume. To beat them, the coalition would need predators of their own. The question was whether humanity was ready to show the galaxy what Earth's apex predator could really do when civilization itself was threatened. 3 weeks after the fall of Kepler Station, Earth's fleet arrived at the Centauri defense line. Captain Lee Juno stood on the bridge of the battleship Sol, watching coalition ships retreat from another lost battle. 12 star systems had fallen to the Vexhai. Millions of people were gone, consumed by the alien predators. Admiral Kim Taiho called a meeting with coalition commanders as soon as the human fleet took position. The conference room was filled with representatives from dozens of species. All of them looked defeated. The Alterans' blue skin seemed pale, the Centaurians' feathers drooped, and even the normally proud Rigelians kept their heads down. The situation is worse than we thought, Yultum, the Coalition Supreme Commander announced. Every defensive strategy has failed. The Vexhai adapt to our tactics within hours. They learn from each battle and become stronger. Commander Bayek Sora, Earth's Special Forces leader, studied the battle reports on her tablet. She was a small woman, but Juno had seen her take down opponents twice her size in training. What kind of defenses have you tried? She asked. Standard protocols, replied a Centaurian admiral. Defensive formations, fortified positions, evacuation procedures. We've followed coalition military doctrine perfectly. Dr. Yang Sumi, Earth's military psychologist, looked up from her notes. That's the problem. You're following prey behavior patterns. You're trying to hide, run, or group together for protection. But you're fighting predators. They expect that. The coalition officers looked confused. Lieutenant Nam Ji-hoon, Earth's tactical specialist, pulled up a holographic display showing Vexhai attack patterns. Look at how they move. They surround targets, cut off escape routes, then attack the weakest points. It's pack hunting behavior. They're not trying to win battles, they're trying to catch prey. Admiral Kim stood up and walked to the display. We need to change how we think about this war. The Vexhai aren't an army, they're hunters. And you can't beat hunters by acting like prey. What do you suggest? Asked Yultem. Our species evolved beyond such aggressive behavior long ago. We don't think like predators. But we do, said Admiral Kim simply. Earth's history is full of predators. We know how they think because we used to be them. The coalition officers looked uncomfortable. Most of their species had evolved from plant eaters or peaceful animals. The idea of thinking like predators scared them. But Chief Engineer Oh Minho was already working on modifications to the human ships. We need to stop building ships for defense, Oh Minho explained to his team later that day. Start thinking about offense. Add ramming spikes to the front. Install close-range weapons. Design boarding equipment. We're going to hunt the hunters. Dr. Park Hana worked with Commander Bek Sora to study Vexhai behavior patterns. They spent hours watching recordings from attacked colonies, learning how the aliens moved and communicated. They use scent markers and body language, Dr. Park discovered. No radio signals we can intercept. They coordinate like Earth wolves, through instinct and pack hierarchy. Commander Beck nodded. Then we need to break their pack structure. Wolves become confused when their alpha is threatened. We target their leaders first. She began training coalition volunteers in predator tactics, but most couldn't overcome millions of years of peaceful evolution. The Centaurians kept trying to flee when attacked. The Alterans wanted to negotiate. The Rigelians fought bravely but used honor-based tactics that predictable and easy for the Vexhai to counter. It's not their fault, Dr. Yang explained to Admiral Kim. Their brains are wired for cooperation and peace. Asking them to think like predators is like asking a deer to hunt wolves. So the humans formed specialized hunter units instead. Lieutenant Nam Jahoon modified their ships with aggressive maneuvering systems. Instead of long-range weapons, they carried boarding equipment and close combat systems. They painted their ships with dark colors and added noise dampeners to move silently through space. The first test came when Vexhai scouts attacked a supply convoy near Proxima Station. Instead of forming defensive positions like coalition doctrine demanded, Captain Lee Juno led his ship in a direct attack on the Vexhai pack leader. "Target the largest ship," he ordered. "Ram it if necessary. Break their command structure." The Sol charged straight at the Vexhai formation. The alien ships scattered in confusion. They weren't used to prey that fought back aggressively. Juno's ship slammed into the pack leader's vessel, boarding spikes piercing its organic hull. Commander Byaxora led the boarding party personally. They moved through the Vexhai ship like wolves themselves, using teamwork and tactical thinking the aliens hadn't expected. Within minutes, they had captured the pack leader and scattered its followers. "Impossible," breathed Yultem when he saw the battle report. "No coalition force has ever captured a Vexhai alive." Dr. Parkhana studied the captured alien in her lab. It was even more terrifying up close. 7 feet tall, covered in chitinous armor with claws that could tear through metal. But she noticed something important. "It's lost without its pack," she reported. "Alone, it seems confused, almost helpless. They're not individuals, they're parts of a larger organism. Break the pack and you break them." Word of the successful attack spread through coalition forces. For the first time since the war began, they had hope. But Admiral Kim knew one victory wasn't enough. "We need to train more humans to think like this," he told his staff. "And we need to convince the coalition that sometimes to protect civilization, you have to become uncivilized." The next few battles proved his point. Human hunter units began working with coalition support fleets. The humans would attack aggressively, breaking Vexhai pack formations, while coalition ships provided firepower and logistics support. Captain Zhang Yuna pioneered new fighter tactics, using her small ship to dart between Vexhai vessels like a predator stalking prey. "Don't think like a pilot," she told her squadron. "Think like a wolf. Use the environment. Attack from unexpected angles. Make them afraid." The Vexhai began to notice the change. Their attacks became more cautious when humans were present. For the first time, the galactic predators had found prey that could bite back. But the war was far from over. Reports came in of massive Vexhai fleets gathering in the outer darkness. The hunters had been playing with their food. Now they were getting serious. Admiral Kim received orders from Earth Command, full military deployment authorized. Humanity's entire space fleet was being mobilized for the fight. As he watched human warships arrive at the front lines, he felt a mix of pride and worry. They were about to show the galaxy what Earth's apex predator could do when protecting its pack. The question was whether the coalition would still trust humanity after seeing what they were truly capable of in war. Colonel Go Hyunwoo watched new recruits struggle through predator training exercises on the military station orbiting Mars. 6 months had passed since humanity joined the war against the Vexhai, and the results were mixed. While human units achieved victories, the coalition was still losing ground overall. The aliens adapted too quickly to standard tactics. "The problem isn't our strategy," Dr. Lim Nari explained during the morning briefing. "It's that we're still thinking too much like civilized beings. The Vexhai don't follow rules of war. They don't protect civilians or avoid sacred sites. They consume everything." She had been working on new weapons designed specifically to fight the aliens. Her laboratory was filled with biological samples from captured Vexhai, studying their weaknesses. Their pack coordination depends on chemical signals, pheromones. If we can disrupt those signals, their group tactics fall apart. Major Shin Dongwook nodded from across the table. He led infiltration missions deep into Vexhai territory, gathering intelligence that no coalition force had ever obtained before. "I've seen their command ships. They're not just vessels, they're living hives. The pack leaders live in the center, surrounded by thousands of workers and warriors." Captain Zhang Yuna, now promoted after her success with fighter tactics, added her own observations. "Their ships move like animals because they basically are animals. Grown, not built. But that means they have biological weak points we can exploit. Colonel Go Hyunwoo stood up and walked to the holographic display showing the current battle lines. Red zones marked Vex-High-controlled space, which had grown despite human involvement. We need to stop reacting to their attacks and start hunting them properly. I'm forming the Terran Predator Corps, specialized units that think and fight like apex predators. The idea worried some coalition leaders. When Yultem visited the training facility, he watched human soldiers practice pack hunting techniques with obvious discomfort. The exercises looked violent and primitive to species that had evolved beyond such behavior. Is this really necessary? The Alteran commander asked Admiral Kim Taiho. Your people are becoming more aggressive, more predatory. That's the point, Admiral Kim replied. The Vex-High are apex predators. To beat them, we need to become apex predators ourselves. The difference is we choose when to use that nature and when to control it. Dr. Lim Nari's first biological weapon test came during the Battle of Wolf Station. As Vex-High ships approached the defensive line, she released pheromone disruptors into space. The effect was immediate. The perfectly coordinated alien fleet began flying in confused circles as their chemical communication broke down. It's working, reported Captain Lee Juno from his command ship. They can't maintain formation. Moving to attack. The human hunter unit struck like wolves attacking scattered sheep. Without their pack coordination, individual Vex-High ships were no match for focused human tactics. For the first time, the aliens retreated from a battle they could have won. Major Shin Dong-wook used the victory to launch his most daring mission yet. While the Vex-High were confused and retreating, he led a small team into their command hive ship. What they found inside changed everything they knew about the enemy. The ship isn't just alive, he reported back. It's intelligent. The walls can see and hear. The Vex-High aren't controlling their technology. They're part of it. The entire fleet is one massive organism. The discovery led to a new understanding of how to fight the aliens. Captain Jang Yuna began designing ships that could match Vex-High organic technology. Instead of rigid metal constructs, she created vessels that could adapt and change during battle, mimicking the aliens' biological advantages while keeping human technological superiority. Her new fighters looked almost alien themselves, sleek, black ships that could reshape their wings during flight and carried weapons that fired living projectiles designed by Dr. Lim Nari. Coalition pilots who saw them were unsettled by how predatory they appeared. Your ships look like something the Vex-High would build, observed a Centaurian admiral. Good, Captain Jang replied. That means we're learning to think like them. The Battle of Rigel Prime became the testing ground for humanity's new approach. A massive Vex-High fleet attacked the heavily defended system, expecting another easy victory. Instead, they found human hunter units waiting in ambush. Colonel Go Hyunwoo's Terran Predator Corps had studied the aliens' approach patterns for weeks. They positioned themselves like wolves surrounding prey, using asteroid fields and gas clouds for concealment. When the Vex-High arrived, they walked into a trap designed by predators who understood hunting better than they did. All units, execute pack hunter protocol, Colonel Go ordered. Remember, we're not soldiers today. We're apex predators defending our territory. The battle was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human ships moved with predatory grace, striking from multiple directions, simultaneously. Dr. Lim Nari's biological weapons disrupted Vex-High coordination while Captain Jang Yuna's adaptive fighters engaged. In close combat that would have horrified earlier coalition forces, Major Shin Dong-wook led boarding parties onto Vex-High hive ships, using knowledge gained from his infiltration missions to strike at the creature's biological weak points. His teams moved through alien vessels like antibodies attacking a virus, methodically destroying the living ships from within. The Vex-High had never faced anything like organized human aggression. Their pack hunting tactics, which had worked against every coalition species, failed against predators who hunted in packs themselves. For the first time since the war began, a major Vex-High fleet was completely destroyed. Impossible, breathed Yultem as he watched the battle reports. How did humans accomplish what our entire coalition could not? Captain Lee Juno, now wearing the insignia of Rear Admiral after his promotion, answered simply, We stopped trying to be civilized and started being what we needed to be. The Vex-High made a mistake. They assumed all coalition species were prey. They didn't realize some of us used to be predators too. But even as the coalition celebrated their first major victory, troubling reports came from Vexhai space. The aliens were adapting again, learning from their defeat. Intelligence suggested they were changing their entire approach to the war. HFY, the supreme Vexhai Pack Alpha, had finally recognized humanity as a real threat. The aliens were no longer treating this as a simple feeding operation. They were preparing for war against fellow predators. Dr. Lim Nari studied captured Vexhai from Rigel Prime and found disturbing changes in their biology. They're evolving, she reported. Not over generations, within individual lifespans. Their bodies are adapting to counter our tactics. Admiral Kim Tae-ho looked at the data with growing concern. How long before they adapt to everything we've learned? Maybe months, Dr. Lim replied. Maybe weeks? They're not just intelligent predators, they're adaptive predators. That makes them more dangerous than anything Earth ever produced. The war was entering a new phase. Humanity had proven they could fight apex predators, but now they faced apex predators who were learning to fight back. The question was whether human innovation could stay ahead of Vexhai adaptation. In the darkness of space beyond Coalition territory, massive organic shipyards were growing new types of Vexhai vessels, ones designed specifically to hunt human hunters. General Kwon Jae-hyun stared at the tactical display showing the latest battle results. The war had been going on for 8 months now, and the situation was getting worse. Despite human victories at Wolf Station and Rigel Prime, the Vexhai were winning the larger conflict. Their ability to adapt was beyond anything the Coalition had ever faced. They're not just learning our tactics, Dr. Cho Yoonji explained during the emergency strategy meeting. They're anticipating them. The Pack Alpha, this HFY creature, is studying human behavior the same way we study theirs. She had been working on psychological warfare techniques, trying to find ways to confuse and disrupt Vexhai thinking. Her research showed the aliens were far more intelligent than anyone had realized. They're not just predators, they're thinking predators. And now they're thinking about how to hunt us. Commander Ryu Suk-jin, leader of the elite Ghost Squadron, had seen the changes firsthand. His latest mission to raid a Vexhai supply convoy had nearly ended in disaster. They're hunting in smaller groups now, he reported. Harder to predict, harder to surround. And they're using tactics that look almost human. The truth was disturbing. The Vexhai were copying successful human strategies and improving on them. Their ships now moved in unpredictable patterns. They set traps and ambushes. Some even used captured Coalition technology in ways that surprised their original builders. Agent Kim Min-ji raised her hand from the back of the room. She was part of intelligence operations, gathering information behind enemy lines. I think I know why they're adapting so quickly. I've been monitoring their communications and I request permission for a deep infiltration mission. General Kwon looked skeptical. Infiltration how? You can't disguise yourself as a 7-foot insect predator. Not as Vexhai, Agent Kim replied. As prey. I've studied captured prisoners who survived Vexhai attacks. With surgical modification and the right behavior patterns, I might be able to pass as a surviving refugee long enough to get inside one of their command hives. The plan was dangerous beyond measure. Agent Kim would need to look and act like a helpless survivor while secretly gathering intelligence. If the Vexhai discovered her true nature, the torture would be worse than death. While Agent Kim prepared for her mission, Dr. Cho Yoonji launched her psychological warfare program. She had discovered that Vexhai packs could be turned against each other by broadcasting signals that triggered their territorial instincts. We're going to make them think other packs are stealing their prey, she explained to her technical team. Vexhai are competitive hunters. If we can make them believe rivals are taking their food, they'll fight each other instead of us. The first test came during a Vexhai attack on the Titan mining colonies. As alien packs approached the defending Coalition fleet, Dr. Cho activated her psychological warfare transmitters. The effect was immediate. Vexhai ships began attacking each other instead of the human defenders. It's working, reported Admiral Lee Juno from his flagship. The alien packs are tearing each other apart, moving to clean up survivors, but the success was temporary. Within hours, the surviving Vexhai had figured out what humans were doing and adapted their communication to resist the interference. Worse, they began using the tactic against Coalition forces, broadcasting signals that caused panic and confusion among non-human species. Commander Ryu Seokjin found his Ghost Squadron missions becoming more dangerous as the aliens learned to counter human tactics. The Vexai had started using decoy ships and false retreats to lure human hunters into traps. Several elite units had been lost to these new strategies. "They're becoming more like us," he reported grimly. "Using deception, planning ahead, sacrificing individuals for group advantage. But they're still predators at heart, which means they're better at this than we want to admit." The breakthrough came when Agent Kim Minji successfully infiltrated a Vexai logistics hub, surgically altered to look like a wounded Centaurian refugee. She had spent 3 weeks moving through Vexai-controlled space before reaching her target. What she discovered was terrifying. "They're not just conquering territory," she transmitted during a brief communication window. "They're preparing for something massive. I've seen construction projects that span entire star systems, organic machinery on a scale that's hard to believe." Her intelligence revealed the Vexai master plan. They weren't trying to slowly consume Coalition space. They were building up for a final assault on the galactic core worlds where trillions of civilians lived undefended. The Outer Rim battles had been preparation, testing grounds where they learned to fight every Coalition species. General Kwon Jae-hyun felt his blood go cold as he read Agent Kim's reports. They're planning to consume the entire galactic center in one coordinated attack. Every major population center simultaneously. The timeline was worse than they had feared. Vexai organic shipyards were producing vessels at an incredible rate. Their reproductive abilities meant they could replace losses faster than the Coalition could inflict them. Even successful human tactics only slowed them down. "We're winning battles but losing the war," Admiral Kim Tae-ho admitted during a joint Coalition conference. "The Vexai can afford to lose ships and troops. They just grow more. We can't replace our losses as quickly." Commander Ryu Seokjin proposed increasingly desperate tactics as his Ghost Squadron faced overwhelming odds. "We need to stop fighting fair," he told his pilots. "No more honor, no more rules. We hunt them the way they hunt others, with complete ruthlessness." His squadrons began using tactics that would have horrified earlier Coalition forces. They targeted Vexai breeding facilities, destroyed supply ships carrying alien young, and used biological weapons that caused slow, painful deaths. It was effective but brutal. "Are we becoming monsters?" asked Captain Jang Yuna after a particularly vicious battle where her fighters had exterminated an entire Vexai nursery ship. "We're becoming what we need to be," replied Commander Ryu. "The question is whether we can go back to being human after this war is over." Dr. Cho Yunji's research into Vexai psychology revealed the full scope of the threat. The aliens weren't just predators. They were perfect predators, evolved over millions of years to consume entire ecosystems. The galactic core worlds represented the largest feeding opportunity they had ever encountered. Agent Kim Minji's final transmission came from deep inside Vexai space. She had discovered the location of their primary staging area, where HFY was coordinating the final assault. But the cost of the information was her life. She had been discovered and would not survive extraction. "The core assault begins in 2 months," was her last message. "Hundreds of thousands of ships. They mean to consume everything. Stop them or there won't be a galaxy left to save." General Kwon Jae-hyun faced an impossible decision. The Coalition's defensive strategies had failed. Their combined fleets couldn't stop the coming assault. The only option left was something no civilized species had ever attempted: the complete extermination of an entire intelligent species. "We have to kill them all," he told the assembled Coalition leaders. "Every last Vexai. Not defeat them, not drive them back, eliminate them entirely. It's the only way to save the galaxy." The moral implications horrified the peaceful Coalition species. Even after months of war, the idea of genocide was almost unthinkable to them. But the alternative was the consumption of trillions of innocent lives. Admiral Lee Juno looked around the conference room at representatives of dozens of species, all struggling with the same terrible choice. "Sometimes," he said quietly, "to remain civilized, you have to do uncivilized things. The question is whether we can live with what we're about to become." Fleet Admiral Park Sun-ho stood before the largest military gathering in galactic history. Ships from hundreds of worlds filled space around the command station. But the majority were human vessels. The Coalition species had provided support, but they couldn't bring themselves to participate in what everyone knew was about to happen: the systematic extermination of an entire species. "This is Operation Final Hunt," Admiral Park announced to his commanders. "Our objective is simple: eliminate every Vexi in the galaxy before they can launch their assault on the core worlds. No survivors, no mercy, no second chances." Dr. An So-young had spent the last month creating humanity's most terrible weapon. The Apex Killer was designed to target the specific neural pathways that allowed Vexi pack coordination. When deployed properly, it would cause complete neurological breakdown in any Vexi within a star system. "It's not a clean death," she warned the assembled military leaders. "The weapon causes seizures, paralysis, and eventual organ failure. It takes hours to work completely, but it will reach every Vexi, even those hidden deep inside hive ships." Wing Commander Lee Kyung-min commanded the fighter squadrons that would carry the Apex Killer to Vexi systems. His pilots were volunteers, knowing many wouldn't return from the mission. "We're not just fighting for victory," he told them during their final briefing. "We're fighting to make sure there's still a galaxy left when this is over." Master Sergeant Jeon Hoseok led the ground forces assigned to clear Vexi breeding worlds. These were planets where the aliens raised their young and stored genetic material for future reproduction. Destroying them was necessary but horrifying work that would haunt his soldiers forever. Director Song Ye-ji coordinated the massive logistics of simultaneous strikes across hundreds of star systems. Every known Vexi location had to be hit at the same time to prevent any from escaping. The timing had to be perfect, or survivors might scatter throughout the galaxy. The operation began at 800 Coalition Standard Time on a Tuesday that would be remembered as the darkest day in galactic history. Human fleets struck Vexi positions throughout their territory, while Coalition forces provided support and secured escape routes. Wing Commander Lee Kyung-min led his fighters into the heart of Vexi space, where massive organic shipyards grew new vessels for the planned core assault. The aliens fought desperately, sensing this was different from previous human attacks. Their ships moved with new desperation as they realized they were facing extinction. "Deploy the Apex Killer," Wing Commander Lee ordered, as his squadron reached the primary shipyard. The weapon spread through space like invisible death, seeking out Vexi neural patterns. Within minutes, the massive organic constructs began convulsing and dying. Master Sergeant John Hoseok's ground forces faced their own nightmare on Vexi breeding worlds. The planets were covered with nurseries containing millions of alien young. His soldiers had to systematically destroy every facility, knowing they were killing creatures that had never harmed anyone. "Remember why we're doing this?" Master Sergeant John told his troops as they worked through another nursery complex. "These young will grow up to consume entire civilizations. We're saving trillions of lives." But the hardest battle was still ahead. Admiral Lee Juno, now commanding humanity's most powerful battle group, led the assault on Hexavor's command center. The Vexi Pack Alpha had gathered the largest concentration of his species in galactic history, preparing for the final assault on Coalition worlds. The battle was unlike anything ever seen in space. Hexavor's forces numbered in the millions, their massive hive ships creating a wall of living metal and flesh around their leader. But Admiral Lee Juno had brought humanity's entire military might to this moment. "All ships engage at will," he commanded. "Today we end this." The human fleet struck like wolves attacking prey, but the Vexi fought back with the fury of cornered predators. Ships died by the thousands on both sides as the largest space battle in history raged around Hexavor's fortress. Director Song Ye-ji monitored the battle from her command center, watching as casualty reports flooded in. Humanity was paying a terrible price for this final victory, but there was no other choice. Let even one Vexi escape, and the genocide would have to be repeated generations later. Wing Commander Lee Kyung-min's fighters broke through the Vexi defensive lines, carrying their deadly cargo toward Hexavor's command ship. The alien leader seemed to sense what was coming. His massive vessel began to change, growing new weapons and defenses as they watched. "The target is adapting to our approach," Wing Commander Lee reported. "We may not be able to get close enough to deploy the weapon." That's when Admiral Lee Juno made his decision. "All ships converge on my position. We're going to ram the command ship directly. Someone has to deliver that weapon by hand." Master Sergeant John Hoseok's voice came through the communication system from a Vexi breeding world. "Admiral, this is wrong. What we're doing here killing young, destroying entire ecosystems. We're becoming monsters. I know, Sergeant, Admiral Lee replied, but sometimes monsters are necessary to protect innocence. We'll have to live with what we've done, but trillions of others will get to live because of it. The final assault on Hexavor's ship was a nightmare of close combat and desperate heroism. Admiral Lee Juno led boarding parties through the living corridors of the alien command vessel, fighting their way toward the Pac Alpha's chamber. Around them, the ship itself was dying from the apex killer, its organic systems shutting down. They found Hexavor in a massive chamber at the ship's heart, surrounded by the dying bodies of his pack leaders. The alien commander was enormous, even for a Vexhai, his chitinous armor scarred from countless hunts across the galaxy. You have doomed yourselves, Hexavor spoke, his translated voice filled with rage. My species has survived for millions of years. We are perfect predators. You are prey pretending to be hunters. Admiral Lee Juno looked at the dying alien leader with something almost like pity. That's where you're wrong. We were predators who chose to become something better. The difference is we can choose when to be monsters and when to be civilized. You never had that choice. As the apex killer finally reached Hexavor, the great Pac Alpha collapsed. With his death, the last coordinated Vexhai resistance ended. Across the galaxy, human forces reported mission success. The species that had threatened to consume everything was gone. But victory came at a cost that would haunt humanity forever. Fleet Admiral Park Soon-ho read the final casualty reports with heavy heart. Millions of human soldiers had died in the operation. Entire species had been exterminated, including young who had never harmed anyone. Dr. An So-young destroyed all research related to the apex killer and requested reassignment to medical research. Wing Commander Lee Kyungmin retired from active duty, unable to continue flying after what he had done. Master Sergeant Jeon Hoseok spent years in therapy, trying to process the horror of systematic extermination. The galaxy was safe, but the Coalition now looked at humanity with a mixture of gratitude and fear. They had asked for protection and received it, but they had also learned what Earth's apex predators were truly capable of when unleashed. Admiral Lee Juno, now promoted to Supreme Commander of Human Forces, addressed the Coalition Council for the last time in his military career. We did what was necessary to save civilization, but we understand if you can never fully trust us again. Power like ours requires restraint, and we accept whatever limitations you feel are needed. The Coalition's response surprised him. Yultum, speaking for all member species, said simply, "We don't fear your power because you chose to limit it yourselves. That choice is what makes you protectors instead of conquerors." Years later, children from dozens of species played safely on restored colony worlds. Human ships patrolled the outer rim, watching for new threats. The soldiers aboard those vessels carried the memory of what they had done, and the responsibility to ensure it never happened again. Earth's apex predators had proven they could protect the galaxy from anything, but more importantly, they had proven they could protect the galaxy from themselves. In choosing civilization over conquest, restraint over dominance, humanity had become something unique in the universe, predators who chose to serve rather than consume. The last hunt was over, but the watch would continue forever.